welcome back to my channel, and if you're new, welcome to my channel. Today I have a special guest here. I have August Renly Cloutier. You wanna say hi? You know this is gonna be your life, right? You're a YouTube baby. Kidding, kind of. So this is baby August. Hi, baby boy. Look at how tiny, well actually he's pretty big. He's a pretty big newborn. I love you so much, baby boy. But today I wanted to share with you guys my birth story. So I did put out my birth vlog. Within that vlog, you obviously get to see me in labor and dying, and then bringing this little one earthside. But there was a lot of details that were kind of missed because I was in labor, and pulling out the camera while I'm also trying to push out a baby wasn't really what was happening. So there is a lot of stuff that I do want to talk about, and I'm just so excited because they always tell you you can't plan your birth and it never goes to plan, and I could say that definitely happened with my first son, but with this birth and this birth story, I literally got everything that I wanted, and I'm so blessed to say that. I mean, regardless if you did or not, you always end up with your little bundle of joy, but I'm just really thankful that I was able to do my water birth and everything like that. So I'm gonna quit rambling and we're just gonna get right into the story because I have a hunch that this is gonna be a very long video. Okay, so to start it off, I wanna talk about the night before. So it was the 27th and I stayed up until like 2:30 a.m. I probably actually didn't go to sleep until 3 a.m. because I was watching Game of Thrones, and while I was watching Game of Thrones, I was eating an artichoke. I know this is just so random, but I was eating an artichoke, and how I eat my artichokes is I make mayonnaise and not lemonade, that'd be disgusting. Mayonnaise and lemon dip, and I make a little bit too much of that, so my stomach always ends up hurting, but it's worth it. Anyway, that's what I did, and my stomach ended up hurting right after that. And so I was like, man, I already know I'm gonna have to use the bathroom probably tomorrow morning. I'm gonna try to go to sleep. I also wanna note that I was using evening primrose oil, and I was using that in tablets, and I was taking 2 a night up the hoo-ha, so that way it would soften my cervix, so that way it would prepare me for labor, and this was recommended by my midwife as well. And so this was probably about my 5th night using those. So I did like my normal routine, put it right up there, and I went to bed. And then the next morning I woke up at 5:30 in the morning. I don't know about you guys, I'm not a morning person, so 5:30 was pretty early for me, and I woke up and I was having really bad stomach pain, and I was for sure that it was the artichoke from the night before, and I just had to use the restroom. So I literally kept getting out of bed, trying to go to the bathroom. I was like, I just need to fart. That's all I need to do. And nothing was coming out. And I didn't feel like that pressure to poop or anything. It was literally just like stomach pain. But I wasn't feeling myself contract, but it felt like contraction pain, if any of that makes sense. So typically when you contract, if you haven't been pregnant before, you feel your whole stomach just tighten up. For me personally, it feels like somebody is sitting on my chest along with just a really tight stomach, and I wasn't feeling my stomach get tight. However, while I'm pregnant, my stomach is already pretty hard and tight anyway. I don't know, but I was feeling like the contraction pain like in that area. So I wasn't sure. I was like, there's no way that this is labor. This has to be poop pains. And spoiler, it wasn't. I was 37 weeks and 6 days, and this was April 28th, so this was whenever I did give birth to him. And so I was so frustrated that I wasn't able to poop. I was like, I'm just gonna try to sleep this off. So I tried going back to sleep, no success. I obviously could not sleep because they were so painful. It was very intense, and I wasn't able to talk through them. And I was like, this is really, bless you. I was like, this is like really intense poop pains. Like I've never felt this way before. And I don't know why. I was 37 weeks. I was almost 38 weeks. So you would think I'd be like, I'm in labor, but I just didn't, I don't know, I just didn't think I was in labor. So after not being able to sleep, not being able to go to the bathroom and relieve any of that pain, I was like, I should probably start timing these. Even though they don't feel like contractions, they are coming very like regular. So it wasn't like just constant pain. They were coming like contractions every few minutes. And so I was like, let me just wake up Patrick. Let's try to time these together, because I was in so much pain. He was the one that had to actually time it. I'd be like, okay, go. And then he would start timing. And so I woke him up and I was like, hey, I might be in labor, I might just really have to shit, I don't know. He woke up and they were 1 minute and 40 seconds apart and they were lasting for 40 seconds each. So I called one of my really close friends, Megan, and she is like all about birth, all about labor, all about babies, and she knows a lot of stuff about it. Like she's done a lot of research about it. I trust her and I was like, hey, like, do you think I should call my midwife? Because I just didn't want to call my midwife unless I was certain, because they are on call and they have so many patients, and you could only imagine how many times that they get the girl who cried wolf, and I know that's their job, but I just didn't want to like call them, have them head over, especially at 5 o'clock in the morning, and it not be labor. So I called Megan and I was like, what do you think? And she was like, because you're not able to talk through them, I would call her. And at this point, Grayson was still sleeping. He actually was sleeping in the bed with us, so he was literally like right in the other room because we were in my master bed bathroom. He was still sleeping, had no idea what was going on, that baby brother was going to be coming very soon. So I called my midwife and I told her, you know, what my contractions were doing and everything, and she basically said to give it an hour and see if the contractions get longer. So because they were 40 seconds, she wanted them to be 1 minute long, and so she said that it sounds like I was in early labor. So after an hour they did get 1 minute long, and they were now 2 minutes apart, so they were getting more and more regular. At this point they were still pretty intense, so we did start running the bath water just so I could relieve pain regardless if I was in labor or not. So while Patrick was running the bath water, I felt the need to sit. I felt like I needed to sit. So I went and sat in my wheelchair, and all of a sudden I felt like, I don't even know how to explain it. It was like the weirdest feeling ever. It felt like there was like a balloon full of water trying to sneak its way out my vagina. Okay, that's what it felt like. I guess that's exactly kind of what it is, and my water broke. And that was, I think, one of the coolest moments, because, and this is why I was very emotional inside the video as well, because if you didn't know, I did get induced with my son Grayson. I went 41 weeks. I know it was close to 42 weeks. I was 41 weeks in a few days. And so I did end up getting induced, unfortunately. And one thing that I just always have wanted to feel was my water breaking. I know that's weird because that's typically when the pain hits. Like everybody says after your water breaks, it's hell. But I just wanted to feel what it was like. With Grayson's, I actually was asleep and they didn't even tell me that they were breaking my water or anything. And this is after I already had the epidural. So I literally I didn't even wake up. Patrick was like, are you sure you didn't pee yourself? Because amniotic fluid is like that like yellowy substance, but it's like, I don't know, it just feels a lot different. I was like, no, I did it. Look, this is my water. And I just remember like wiping it up, being so proud, showing him, and he was like, nice. But I do also want to mention, it didn't like break fully. It was just like leaking out. So it wasn't like a huge break. I don't think it was all of it yet, because I felt whenever I did get inside the bathtub, more of it like leak out. It was time to call my midwife again and let her know that my contractions were more regular and my water just broke. Patrick called her and let her know, and she had to get, so if you guys don't know, I actually have 2 midwives. I don't think that was clear throughout the video, but there's actually 2 midwives. And so I saw both of them throughout like all of my prenatal, and they were both there whenever I gave birth. So April has kids, and so April had to find a babysitter, and that is why they have multiple midwives in case something does happen. You obviously still have a midwife to help you give birth. So she called Sarah and told her to already head on her way. So Sarah was coming, and then April was trying to find a babysitter. And so throughout most of my labor, Sarah was the one that was there, and then literally April got there right before I gave birth. Like she got there whenever I was pushing, and she was there whenever he came out, and then obviously helped throughout the rest of it. So now that my midwives were on their way, I had to call my crew and tell them it's real. I think we're actually in labor. So I called Megan to start heading over, and thankfully her stepmom was actually in town, so she was able to watch Jax. And then I also called my mom, and my mom was having a garage sale at the time, so she wasn't able to just like pick up and leave because all of her stuff was out. So she had to find somebody to continue the garage sale because she's moving, so she has to get all of that stuff out there ASAP. And so she had to find somebody to take over the garage sale so that way she could head over. So that is why Grayson was there for a pretty large chunk of the time, because the original plan was for her just to take Grayson because I didn't want him to see mommy in pain. Now Grayson at this point did wake up, and so he obviously wanted to be in the bath with mommy. He absolutely loves bath time, so we let him go ahead and get inside the bath, which was already cleared with my midwife and everything. So we went ahead and let him inside the bath, and we were able to labor in there with him for a really long time, because at this point the contractions were painful. Like, they were still very intense where I can't talk through them, but it wasn't like screaming painful. So that was a lot of fun, and I think it helped me a lot that he was actually in the tub with me. It got my mind off of things. The funny thing is the whole poop situation, which I actually want to explain as well. So Grayson did say that he had to go poop inside the bathtub, and if you know Grayson, he jokes around a lot. So he says it all the time, like poop. It's just one of his favorite words. So whenever he did say like that he had to go poop, that's why we didn't take it seriously and like take him like directly out of the tub right then and there, was because he just walks around saying poop all the time. And so I thought that he was just joking around. And then he farted, and then I was like, oh no, I don't know if he actually has to go poop or if he's just a gassy little man, but let's not take that chance. So that's when we actually took him out, and then we put a diaper on him. He didn't even poop. So he ended up getting back inside the tub with me. So eventually my mom came, and then that is when he got out of the bathtub because he is obsessed with my mom, and so he wanted to go play with Nana. So she kind of played with him for a little bit and kind of distracted him inside my own house. So she didn't leave just yet, but she was just playing with him inside the other room. And by this point my contractions were getting a little bit more intense, but still not anything insane. And then Sarah arrived, and so she started setting everything up, which I didn't even think that there was a lot of stuff to set up, but there actually was. They come with a lot of stuff because there's a whole birth kit in case anything goes wrong. They have like a lot of like extra things, and then they also set up like the bed for whenever you're, you know, done having the baby. So by this point Grayson did keep coming in, and I was in a lot of pain, and I definitely didn't want him to see me in that much pain because he started getting worried and was like, Mama, like, are you okay? And so by this point I was like, hey mom, like, I think it's time. And so she decided at this point that she actually wanted to be more involved inside the labor and delivery and everything than what she like originally anticipated. The original plan was for her to just take Grayson and dip and then come back whenever I was about ready to have the baby. That is not what happened. So she ended up actually calling my aunt, who was thankfully off of work, and so she ended up dropping Grayson off with her, and she actually stayed for my labor. My midwife checked me, and I just remember thinking like I'm probably like 3 centimeters, maybe 4 centimeters. She checked and I was 6 centimeters dilated, and I was like, oh my god, we're actually in labor. Like, I know, like, obviously the midwife came, she set up, my water broke, and it still just didn't hit me yet that I was actually in labor. Just, there was just this voice in the back of my head that was like, nope, you're not in labor, this is just a false alarm, like a really legit false alarm. And so when she told me I was 6 centimeters, especially because I wasn't in that much pain yet, I was like, oh my god, we're gonna do this. And that's when you guys saw me like break down crying, because I just thought for some reason that I was going to have to get induced with this baby, because I just felt like my body was not able to go into labor naturally, which is crazy to think because obviously this is what our bodies were meant to do. And I've only had one other experience. It's not like I've been pregnant, you know, 3 or 4 times, and every single pregnancy I had to get induced. So it sounds very silly, but that's just where my mindset was, even though it just happened one time. And I was just so thankful that my body, and it makes me emotional still right now, because this entire pregnancy, I just thought I was gonna have to get induced and have a hospital birth, and I wasn't going to be able to have my water birth like I really wanted to. That was just a really surreal moment for me that my body did it, and I was so happy. They were happy tears, they were not painful tears. I was on top of the world at that point. And then she also showed me some breathing techniques. It's funny, whenever I was on live, so the breathing technique was ooh, and like just going like really low, low humming, singing type thing. And it was funny, on my live, when I did go live on Instagram, a lot of people were like, is she trying to sing? And I was like, no, it's just a breathing technique, and that helped a lot as well. It kind of helps you not tense your body up so that way you don't get tired quickly, so that way you have the energy to push the baby out. The tub was so amazing for contractions. Like, I cannot imagine doing it any other way. Just compared from Grayson's to this baby, I genuinely feel like that's why whenever I was 6 centimeters and I wasn't in that much pain of what I thought 6 centimeters should feel like, I totally think it was because I was in the tub and the water was helping so much. Every time I would have a contraction, I would turn the water on and I would just kind of have that like run down my back, and that helped me get my mind off of it as well, and so that was really nice. And I think a big reason too why this labor was just so different from Grayson's was because I was induced, and so when you're induced, typically you don't have a break during those contractions. So typically with contractions, they go all the way up and then they go all the way down, and then you have a break, and then you have another contraction however, you know, close they are. With Grayson's, they went all the way up, and that bitch just kept going up and up and up, and I was just in so much pain. And so I do think this time around, I just had so many breaks through my contractions where I was able to kind of like regain that energy and get ready for the next contraction, which helped me a lot. And this is where it gets intense. I started feeling the urge to push just a little bit, and I was feeling a lot of pressure down there, like a lot of pressure. And the contractions started getting severe, like really bad. This is when I was like pounding on the tub. If you guys remember, I was going a little insane. I could quite literally feel his whole head and just body like get into the right position so that way he could come out, and that was so painful. For me personally, laying on my right side, which I think you guys saw like throughout the entire video, laying on my right side was kind of like the most comfortable position for me. I really thought I was gonna be on my hands and knees, but no, the right side was my position. That's what my body was telling me. And then as the contractions got worse, it felt really good to like submerge my entire body inside the tub. So this is like when my hair got like all kinds of wet. Like I look like a wet dog. I just submerged myself. It literally felt like a warm blanket over me, and it just felt so nice. I kind of knew that we had to be getting somewhat close. I thought I was probably 7 centimeters at this point because that's when transition starts to happen. And so I thought that's what this was. Even though I was feeling the urge to push and everything, I certainly did not think I was 10 centimeters. And so, especially because this happened so quick, guys. So just to give you guys an idea, I woke up at 5:30 and then I had him basically at 11 a.m. And so my labor and delivery was so quick, and so I just wasn't thinking that I was actually progressing that fast. So I asked her to check me again because I was feeling the urge to push, and that is when she told me I was 10 centimeters. And it's really funny, you could totally see how out of it I was. I asked her, I was like, how many centimeters? And she was like, you're fully dilated. And then I was like, no, how many centimeters? And she was like 10. And I just remember me and Megan died laughing when we were editing the birth vlog. So I was like, how dumb can you be, Alex? You know what fully dilated means. Like, anyway, so now that I was 10 centimeters, I was like, oh my God, it's time to push just about. I just had to listen to my body, and I was scared. Like, I was scared. I was like, I don't want to push. I made it this far. Can we just like pull the baby out of me? Like, what can we do? I was so scared. Every single time I pushed, I felt like I couldn't breathe. And it was really hard. And I think a big part of it was because I was psyching myself out saying I couldn't do this. So I really had to get inside that mindset of, come on, Alex, boss up. You got to get this baby out of you. That's the only thing that's going to stop this pain. And so my midwife just kept talking to me. She kept talking me through it. She was seriously absolutely amazing, guys. I could not have done it without her. And it's so funny, everything that she like had, I didn't actually think that I would need, and I did. Like, for example, she had Patrick make like an ice bucket, and then she would take like the washcloth and like put it over my head. I've seen this in so many birth vlogs, and I just remember thinking to myself, like, that wouldn't help me. That would probably just annoy me. No. That was the best thing. Like, that was literally amazing having that cold washcloth like on everywhere, just everywhere. It was amazing. We also had like a fan that I didn't think that I would actually need, and Patrick was just like fanning me off the entire time. I'm telling you, she knew exactly what I needed. My mouth also got super dry. She also had water, and they were feeding me feeding me or drinking me. They were giving me water. And by this point, I just remember like sitting there and having like a small pep talk inside my head of like, Alex, let's do this. Like, let's quit messing around. Let's push this kid out of me. That is when I just became very determined to get him out. So every contraction, I just kind of listened to my body. Not every contraction I felt the urge to push, so not every contraction I pushed. I just waited till I felt that urge, which I thought would be a lot stronger, but it wasn't as strong for me. I remember my body started shaking. I literally felt like I was gonna collapse. This is the point in the video where I was like, I'm gonna pass out. They kept telling me, like, you're not gonna pass out, you're okay, you've got this. And so I think that was just me psyching myself out again, because I was like, you're right, we got this. Let me quit acting like this little bitch and let's do this. This part you actually didn't see inside the birth vlog. So my right leg cramped and then my left foot cramped, and I felt like I was going down, and they had to catch me because obviously you're tensing your body up. That was a memory I don't think I'll ever forget. My midwife started massaging, you know, everything out. So moving on, my midwife then told me to try to feel him, and so, like, with my hand, and so I just went up there and I could feel his head, and I was like, oh my god, he's like right here. Guys, the ring of fire is no joke. If you don't know what that is when the baby's head is coming out, and it feels like a ring of fire. Like, that is, oh my god, that was by far the worst pain throughout my entire labor and delivery, was pushing him out and just feeling, oh no, that's like, I don't want another child for a few more years, guys. The really cool part about this though is I could kind of like feel myself almost tearing down there, so I was able to kind of like edge him out so that way I didn't actually tear down there. So everybody that was in the room was my mom, Megan, Patrick, and then my midwife, and so this is when everybody saw his head come out. My mom started bawling her eyes out. Like, she started bawling from the time she saw his head all the way until he was out, and I just pushed as hard as possible, and I actually felt his head come out, which felt amazing. And getting his body out was actually the hardest part rather than the head. I don't know if that's like typical, but it was pretty hard getting his little body out. As you guys know, I really wanted Patrick to catch the baby, but he just did not feel confident enough in himself to actually catch the baby. I don't know if he thought he was gonna drop him or what, but he just, like, my midwife asked, she's like, do you want to catch the baby? And he was like, no. He's like, I just want to watch. And so my mom was like, can I catch the baby? My midwife was like, yeah. So my mom was actually going to catch the baby, and this is when things kind of took a turn, and which you guys probably didn't even really see inside the birth vlog. Like, you guys probably didn't notice what was going on, so that's the main reason why I wanted to make this video. So basically what happened, it's called shoulder dystocia, and so that's basically when the baby is a little bit unproportionately big for the mother's pelvis, and so he was not able to actually fully rotate whenever I was pushing. And so at this point, my midwife like immediately saw, you know, what was going on. And then that is why I was put on my hands and knees. And my mom like no longer was able to catch the baby because my midwife actually had to assist him coming out. It can be very serious. He could have broken bones, there could have been nerve damage, but it was very slight, my midwife said. And it obviously was fixed by having somebody experienced there, so that way she knew what to do. So what she did was she basically was manually rotating the baby and also helping him come out. And so without her though, it would have been a very scary experience. Like if I had like an unassisted water birth at home, it for sure could have taken a turn for the worse. That's why in my opinion it is really, really important to have somebody there that is experienced. And I'm just so thankful obviously that, you know, she was there and was able to help. And she's done it a million times before, so it wasn't anything. And you guys could even tell inside the video, I had no idea that this was, nobody had any idea that this was going on because she was so calm and so quick. I didn't even know, like, we thought that my mom wasn't able to catch the baby because there was like meconium. I don't know, I don't know exactly like what we thought, but I had no idea that something was actually like happening that needed assistance until like way after, you know, she obviously told me what was going on, which I think is really important, because if I would have known, like if she started freaking out and was like, oh my god, and like, you know, trying to pull the baby out and whatever, I would have freaked out. I probably would have quit pushing, which wouldn't have been, you know, obviously the best in that situation. So I do think it's really, really important, and I think she handled it so nice. Also, I did want to mention he did have meconium a few days before, and then he also released meconium immediately immediately whenever he came out. So that's why the water changed that color. And that is something that can be, you know, very scary as well, because babies that do inhale meconium typically do have to go to the NICU. However, again, that is why I have experienced midwives there assisting me and helping me, because they were able to determine whether he did inhale it or not. But thankfully he didn't inhale meconium. Once he came out though, that was seriously the best feeling ever. It was so amazing. The most relief I think I've ever felt in my entire life. My mom started freaking out because he was purple, which is totally normal. He was still attached to the cord, so that wasn't, you know, an issue or anything. So my midwives are trying to calm her down and say, hey, like, it's okay, he's still attached to the cord, there's no, you know, reason to be scared or anything. And he wasn't crying, and then my midwives just kind of like rubbed him, and then he began crying, and that was the best sound ever. Just holding him for the first time was just so amazing. I started crying, and I love him so much, guys. And then I pushed my placenta out, which was like the second best feeling in the world, and it came out whole. There was nothing, you know, stuck up there or anything. They assessed the placenta to make sure. We did delay cord clamping as well, so we waited until cord was done pulsing, and Patrick was going to cut it, and then I asked him if, you know, it was okay that I cut it. We already actually talked about this beforehand as well. I remember with Grayson's, he always talked about like how chewy and how hard it was to like cut it, and so I asked him if it was okay if I cut it this time, and he was like, yeah. And then when it actually happened, I think everything was just going so fast, and I was like, hey, can I still cut it? And he was like, yeah, that's fine. So that's why I cut it. He was perfectly fine with that, and it was very chewy. It was pretty hard to cut, and I don't know, I just thought that was really cool that I was able to do that as well. They checked if I tore, and I didn't tear at all. I did have 2 abrasions, and so what that is it was more so like scrapes rather than like actual tears, and they were in the wall of my vagina. So I didn't need any stitching. I just had to keep my legs closed, and it would heal, you know, on its own, which now it is fully healed, so that is good. So the midwives then kind of drained the water, and they started cleaning me up while we were doing skin to skin with this one. We didn't wipe off any of the vernix or anything because it is really important for the baby's skin. So then they helped me into bed. I think that's another amazing part about my home birth, was that we were able to do skin to skin as long as we wanted. It wasn't like they immediately just, you know, took the baby away or anything. They checked to make sure that he was healthy, of course, and everything, but we were able to do skin to skin for a really long time, which I really did appreciate. But yeah, while I was actually getting into bed, that is when Patrick did skin to skin with him, and I don't know if you guys could actually tell, he started tearing up, and it's really cute. You can kind of see him shaking in the video. So yeah, he started doing skin to skin with him, and then from there he, you know, transferred him back to me, and then I began cramping really bad. It literally felt like I was still in labor because my uterus is, you know, is trying to get back to its normal size, so it's perfectly normal, and it actually gets worse with the more pregnancies that you have. So this is my second, so it was definitely a lot worse than what I remember with Grayson's. He was 8.8 pounds, which is insane. I did not think I would have a big baby like that. He is 21 inches long, which is pretty long, and he also had a 16-inch head. We were all pretty shocked, and then after that, we did try breastfeeding. A little bit hard to latch him, but that's pretty, you know, normal with a newborn. We're both learning. Finally latched, and he was on the boob, like each boob, for probably about an hour each, which is a pretty long time. And so he was nursing for 2 hours. I missed nursing so much. Patrick went and got sushi for everybody because that's what I was craving. And so he went and got sushi, came back, and then we grubbed, and then everybody left, and that is when Patrick and I obviously just started bonding with our new little bundle of joy. Grayson spent the first night with my mom, especially because I was contracting and in so much pain. I probably would have woke Grayson up because I was literally screaming because it felt like I was still in labor. My second son deserves just as much time as what my first son got, and so to us it was really important to bond one-on-one before Grayson came and met him, and so he met him the next day. And yeah, that is basically my birth story, and it was everything that I wanted. I was able to do the water birth. I was able to delay cord clamping. I also encapsulated my placenta, which my midwives did for me. I just got everything that I wanted, and I'm just so grateful for this experience, and I'm so grateful for this little boy here. And yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a great one. Bye!